Welcome back. You're still watching The Morning Breeze on NBS Television. My name is Simon Kagwa Njala. And in this edition of the topical discussion this morning, we'll be putting a spotlight on some of the big stories that are making headlines and causing a serious discussion in and around the country. I'm joined by two guests in the studio, Mr. Patrick Katabazi Kiconco, alongside Charles Rwomushana, to give us the analysis on state of the nation. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
The Almighty God is great.
And you can also join the discussion online on all our social media platforms. Well, gentlemen, I'll begin with the most recent. Yesterday's Labor Day celebrations that were held in Paris. The significance, the highlights, and what you found quite remarkable.
Yes, first of all, I want to congratulate Ugandans for the Labor Day that was celebrated yesterday. Labor Day, ordinarily in most countries, would be a celebration about the achievements made in the labor industry. Unfortunately for us, yesterday, there wasn't so much really that came out, for instance, from the speeches that were made. In Kenya, as an example, the president of Kenya announced an 18% increment on the minimum wage, and also indicated to the Kenyans that if you are earning 13,000 Kenya shillings, then you are not going to be taxed. So in some way revising the amount that will be allowed for tax purposes. And that in itself is something that would really make some workers happy. So, but there are so many other interesting things that are happening, that we celebrated Labor Day and we don't have the Minister of State responsible for labor. I mean, that is something that is outstanding. And the theme itself of the day, talking
building the nation,
yes,
through good work ethics.
Yes.
Was it a contradiction?
I don't know the people who chose this, whether it was international or local one. But in my view, I would see a contradiction. Here you have a minister who has been indicted for taking bribes. I mean, who has done actions that are bordering on issues of ethics? And then you have the government that is promoting the same. So, but the fact that, of course, this gentleman was apprehended maybe would be the step in the right direction. But it tells you a lot on what is happening in our country. That for the people who are employing and for the workers themselves, as the workers, there is a serious problem that has everything to do with work ethics. And we must remember that our unemployment rate, especially for the young people, is one of the highest in the world. Most statisticians have put our unemployment rate for people aged between 18 and 24 around 83%. And I think, in my view, that is very, very high. And considering the fact that our population is very young, if we cannot put in place robust strategies to ensure that we deal with the issue of unemployment, we'll have a problem. And in my view, dealing with unemployment really stems from the way we are managing our economy. As it is now, our resource allocation is largely consumptive. You might have read in the press recently where the analysts have said that about 330 billion will be spent on entertainment and refreshments. Again, for the domestic borrowing requirement for the first quarter for 2016-17 was almost about 600 billion. So you mean you're borrowing in order to simply consume. So once the economy is not productive, then it becomes very clear that the number of jobs that will be created will be minimal. And you know, you have had a ministry that has actually shifted from looking at the core issues that will generate employment for our people to now focusing on exporting labor. You see the horrible stories that are coming through?
The Middle East
issues. Yes, you have a minister like the one who has been indicted, Kabafunzachi, in the village collecting money from people that is going to take them abroad. So when did we have exporting Ugandans a core business of government? Yet we would sit down on the table.
Well, that remains an allegation.
Yes, I mean, yes, it is an allegation. It is an allegation, but it's a sound allegation. Not to be able to be on record to dispute that. So you have people who are managing affairs who are looking primarily about exporting labor, rather than discussing, generating a discussion as Ugandans on how we can create our own labor internally. Look at the kind of jobs that they go to do. But that can be.
Well, Charles, Labor Day, there was a lot of pomp and glamour as usual, the usual rituals, decoration of medals, rather of distinguished Ugandans. Among them was General Elweru for a distinguished service to the country. President Museveni came and discussed issues to do with alcohol and corruption. What really did you make of this event?
In a capitalistic setting, i.e. in a setting where capital leads, and more especially where capital is owned by the entrepreneur, labor tends to be disadvantaged and therefore must struggle. This means then that labor must organize. And that's why you have trade unions, for instance, for the conditions of the worker in a working place. You know, I'll give an example. Where there are urban centers, you have facilities to take care of mental breakdown, because that goes with industry. Two, you also have facilities to handle crime, because where there is industry, you will have those two. You will have crime, you will have mental breakdown. And that's why we have Butabika. That facility is for those who have crashed. You know, here you don't, if you were really labor intensive, no, if we really were a functioning economy, you would find that you have like around 10 jobs to do in a day. And quite often, many break down. So when you see him sell away that piece of land, when you see them as a family, by the way, still part of Butabika land, then you know the thinking.
Serious,
but they did.
Okay, go ahead.
Maybe the word steal.
These are your views, anyway. Please continue.
No, we can agree and amend that word, because I want us to have peace.
Grab?
Okay, let's go with grabbing, but it was the family. Now grabbing is yours, mine is stealing, but let's go with yours, if it can give us peace. So labor must organize. And in the case of such, for instance, society does not consider why this guy is called what? Aya something, eh?
Aya.
Why he was paying a bribe. Because what is admitted is that Aya was paying a bribe. Paying a bribe to the minister. It was about protecting the worker. The complaint was about protecting the worker whom this guy sort of exploiting sexually. Abuse.
Allegedly, yes.
Allegedly.
No, he paid the bribe. He paid the bribe to kill the case. There is that conversation. It was being followed at the level of a minister. So, do we have labor organizing? And what is the response of Mr. Museveni to organize the labor? You've seen him respond to Makerere University. Actually, sometimes I even had the closure of the university, including blackmail, not even living up to what they have agreed with the university workers. You've seen them threaten to dismiss teachers, and they even dismiss them. Others get prosecuted. They threaten them. You've seen there is a lot of things going on there. What is his mindset? Because if you are dealing with it, you need to interrogate his mindset. That's why normally they look at their culture and background of the leaders. That also matters. The culture and background of Mr. Museveni is the Quran. You want the source? The mustard seed. He's the cattle keeper. His base is in the Quran. In the Quran, they don't pay by. To say, you've looked after my 500 cows, they have generated $1 billion, and therefore you will get 5% or 3% of the revenue generated. No, they don't pay by commission. They pay, because I worked there, they pay a kanumi. Small, they don't even call it a bull. It's like a small bull. And it is for 18 months, 1 year plus 6 months. Normally it is the one that dies. If it dies, you will have to work for another year plus 6 months, then they give you a kanyena, not even a nyena. And then you have to stay with it for it to grow, and then, in other words, they ensure that you stay there. But in the Quran,
do you want to suggest that President Museveni is bringing a crown mentality?
that's the danger with dealing with very bright people. In the Quran, you have abashumba. In the Quran, umushumba is Emuhuku is a slave. You have it in the Quran, and I'm very sure if you went into Museveni's farm, you will find Emuhuku. Then you also have abashumba. Those are families that have collapsed and come into the Quran for self-sustenance. That is the labor relations in the Quran. And Mr. Museveni is limited. That's why he will tell you, you workers, you can go hang. He is more favorable to those that have capital. He does not mind how they treat the workers of Uganda. By the way, he doesn't even mind how he treats the workers of public service. Public service, he doesn't. And that is why now the mindset we have among workers is not about service. It's about benefit. What reigns, what rules, like you now and NBC, is it about... NBS, sorry. Is it about service or it's about benefits? Now, Msisi, when Msisi was coming to Kampala, of course, I know it's service because we even enjoy the show. I know you. I know you because I know the money you spend on coffee in the morning is beyond your salary. But Msisi, before Msisi came in as KCCA, she did not begin with the master plan to transform Kampala. That's not what she presented to Mr. Museveni. She presented a package for allowances. I can only work if you give me 40 plus million shillings per month. And that was not discussed in relation to her output.
Well, motivation is a factor.
You see, that's not motivation. That's because when Museveni was bringing them, it was wrong. By the way, when Museveni gives you a job, it's a reward. What are you quarreling? Why are you quarreling? I gave you. It's like he's saying, have a job, go and eat. It's not that have a job, go and serve. No. And that's why it's now changed from, I think it should change from public service. Because it was a civil service, it was public, it was about service. And then society will take care of you. Your retirement package, it will take care of your accommodation, it will take care of your children, it will take care of your health, and then you serve society. But here, you find securities are looked after by criminals. Yes, I know that for a fact. I know that this border 2010 looks after police commanders, DPCs, regional police commanders, and directors. I'm not about to suggest the IGP. Very sure I have money for bond here. But they collect a lot of money from borders, and they take care of the security apparatus. But if you go to interrogate them, most of them are criminals. They are recruited to manage crime, to help in curbing crime. They are best, and they are the ones who now pay public service. Public service is on their payroll. Now, who is supposed to regulate? Because it's also a worker, Parliament. We said Parliament help us supervise the executive. And they got the president to beg. The moment you now go to beg your employer, then you know the organization is good. You must look at the survival of your organization for you to survive. Do you work for the survival of Uganda? Do you work for the survival of the public? So that the public is able to pay you. Here it's the other way around. Whoever goes in, some people even steal batteries of cars. Just cars. Others steal tires. As long as so now a conscious capitalist pays labor well. That's a conscious capitalist. Why? Because when you pay labor well, you generate aggregate demand, and you therefore generate markets. A conscious capitalist will allow labor holidays because that is when the worker will spend. Will spend in tourism, will spend in other areas, in transport. That's a conscious capitalist. Then an unconscious capitalist, because this one, Mr. Museveni is not a natural capitalist. He's not, as I've told you, he's basically a cruel man, and he has accumulated the capital primitively. It is for leisure. If he has, because he says he wants to retire in buildings in Rio Estate. That is on record, as he said that. So when you see him there, it is not that he has related the payback period of the building. What is return on capital?